Captain Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he watched the asteroid belt slowly drift past the main window of his mining ship, New Horizon. The belt around Kepler 442b was rich in rare metals that Earth desperately needed. For 3 months, his crew had been working day and night to extract enough materials to fill their cargo holds. "Captain, we've got something big on the scanners," called out his communications officer, Pete Harris, from his station. Multiple ships coming in fast from the outer system. Jake moved to the scanner display and frowned. 6 large vessels were approaching their position, moving in perfect formation. The ships were unlike anything in the human database. They had sleek, curved hulls that reminded Jake of bird wings, and they were big, much bigger than any human ship. "Are they responding to our standard greeting signal?" Jake asked. "Negative. Sir, I've been broadcasting on all frequencies for the past 10 minutes. No response." Jake felt his stomach tighten. First contact with an alien species was supposed to happen through official diplomatic channels, not during a routine mining operation. He grabbed the ship's intercom microphone. "All hands, this is the captain. We have unknown vessels approaching our position. This is not a drill. Report to your stations and prepare for possible contact with non-human intelligence." The bridge. Crew moved with practiced efficiency, but Jake could see the tension in their faces. They were miners and engineers, not diplomats or soldiers. The closest thing they had to military training was the basic emergency protocols all civilian crews learned. On the scanner, the alien ships had formed a wide circle around the asteroid belt. Jake realized they were being surrounded. "Captain," Pete said, his voice shaky, "I'm picking up some kind of transmission. It's not directed at us, but it's on a frequency we can monitor. Put it through the translators and see what our computer can make of it." The ship's artificial intelligence worked for several minutes, analyzing the alien language patterns. Finally, a synthesized voice spoke through the bridge speakers, translating the alien words in real time. "Sacred space violated. Unknown vessels desecrate the ancestor moon. Prepare for challenge." Jake's blood ran cold. Ancestor moon? "Pete, which celestial body are they talking about?" Pete checked his navigation charts. "Sir, there's a small moon about 2 million kilometers from our current position. We've been using it as a navigation reference point. Have we been mining near it?" "No, sir, but some of our automated probes have been scanning it for mineral content." Jake closed his eyes. Humanity's first contact with aliens, and they had apparently committed some kind of religious violation. He opened the ship's communication channel to broadcast on all frequencies. "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the human mining ship New Horizon. We apologize if we have caused any offense. We were not aware that the moon held special significance to your people. We are peaceful and wish to establish friendly relations." The response came quickly, translated by the ship's computer. "Words of the violators mean nothing. You have shown hostility by raising war shields. Prepare for judgment." Jake looked around the bridge in confusion. "War shields? What are they talking about?" His chief engineer, Carol Adams, spoke up from her station. "Captain, I raised our deflector shields when the unknown ships appeared. It's standard safety protocol when encountering potential hazards." Jake realized the terrible mistake. What humans considered a basic safety measure, these aliens saw as an act of war preparation. He quickly opened the communication channel again. "Unknown vessels, we have raised our deflector shields only as a safety precaution. This is standard procedure for human ships when encountering unknown situations. We mean no hostility. Please let us discuss this peacefully." The alien response was swift and harsh. "Lies and deception. Violators prepare for battle while speaking. False words of peace. The Zenthari Empire does not accept cowardice disguised as diplomacy." On the main screen, Jake watched as the alien ships began to glow with energy. Weapon ports opened along their hulls, revealing massive gun arrays that dwarfed anything in the human arsenal. "Captain," Carol said urgently, "I'm reading massive energy buildups from all 6 ships. Those aren't just weapons. They're ship killers." Jake made a desperate decision. He opened an emergency channel to the human colony on Kepler 442b. "Colony base, this is New Horizon. We are in immediate danger from hostile alien forces. 6 unknown warships have surrounded our position and are preparing to fire. We attempted peaceful contact, but there has been a severe misunderstanding." The response came from Lieutenant Commander Lisa Bennett, the colony's military liaison officer. "New Horizon, this is Colony Base. We copy your emergency. Are you able to withdraw from the area?" "Negative, Colony Base. We are surrounded and outgunned. The aliens call themselves the Zenthari Empire. They believe we have violated some kind of sacred space and are treating our defensive shields as a hostile act." Jake could hear Lisa's sharp intake of breath over the radio. "New Horizon, maintain your position. I'm going to attempt direct communication with the Zenthari vessels." Lisa's voice suddenly came through on the alien communication frequency, speaking slowly and clearly. "Zenthari Empire vessels, this is Lieutenant Commander Lisa Bennett of the Human Colonial Defense Force. I am speaking with full diplomatic authority on behalf of humanity. We request immediate ceasefire and peaceful negotiation to resolve this misunderstanding." The alien response was filled with what sounded like anger and contempt. "Humans send warrior female to speak false words. In Zenthari culture, only warriors may speak in battle. Your female claims diplomatic immunity while your vessels prepare for war. This is cowardice and deception." Jake watched in horror as one of the Zenthari ships moved closer to his position. On the scanner, he could see smaller vessels launching from the alien motherships. "They're launching fighters," Carol reported. 12 small craft moving fast." Lisa's voice came through the radio again, tight with tension. "All human vessels, this is Colony Base. We are implementing Emergency Protocol 7. Repeat, Protocol 7 is now in effect." Jake knew what that meant. Protocol 7 was the emergency evacuation and defense plan for the entire colony. It meant Lisa expected the situation to turn into a full-scale war. On the main screen, Jake watched as one of the small Zenthari fighters approached an automated human probe that had been scanning the asteroid belt. Without warning, the alien craft fired a bright beam of energy that completely destroyed the probe in a flash of light. "Colony Base, they just destroyed Probe 7, Jake reported. "This is definitely hostile action." The response from the colony was immediate. The automated defense platforms hidden throughout the asteroid belt suddenly activated, their weapon systems coming online. Warning shots fired across the bows of the nearest Zenthari ships. Jake realized with growing horror that both sides had now committed acts that could be considered warfare. The humans had fired warning shots, and the aliens had destroyed human equipment. The Zenthari response was swift and decisive. The lead alien ship broadcast a message that chilled Jake to the bone when the computer translated it. "The Zenthari Empire hereby declares war upon the species known as humans. Your violations of sacred space, your deceptive diplomacy, and your acts of hostility cannot be forgiven. Prepare to face the judgment of the galaxy's finest warriors." Jake slumped in his captain's chair as the full magnitude of the disaster became clear. A simple mining operation had somehow escalated into an interstellar war. He opened the emergency channel to Earth. "Earth Command, this is Captain Morrison of the New Horizon. We have a code red situation at Kepler 442b. We are at war with an alien empire called the Zenthari. We never wanted this fight, but it's starting whether we like it or not. We need help, and we need it fast." As Jake sent the message that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever, the Xanthari fleet began moving into attack formation. The war had begun with a misunderstanding, but it would end with the galaxy learning something new about the species called humans. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council on Nexus Prime buzzed with excited chatter as news of the Xanthari declaration of war spread through the assembled alien representatives. The massive chamber, built to accommodate hundreds of different species, had never seen such energy over what most considered a minor conflict. Representative Vexthani of the Coral Mines floated in her water-filled diplomatic pod, her tentacles moving in patterns that showed amusement. The aquatic species had been part of the Galactic Council for over 1,000 years, and she had seen many small wars come and go. "The Xanthari have declared war on the humans," she said to her aide, her voice creating bubbles in the water around her. "How long do you think it will take? 3 days? Maybe 4? Her aide, a younger coral mine named Kexdale, waved his tentacles thoughtfully. "The humans have only been in space for 200 years. They have no real military experience against advanced species. I would guess 2 days at most." Across the hall, Senator Grixmal of the Saurian hegemony was having a similar conversation with his colleagues. The large reptilian being stood over 3 meters tall, his scaled hide reflecting the chamber's lights. "I have studied the human military reports," Grixmal said in his deep gravelly voice. "They have perhaps 50 warships in total. The Xanthari Empire has over 3,000. This will not be a war, it will be an execution." The other Saurian representatives nodded their agreement. They had fought many wars in their long history and understood the mathematics of military power. Numbers rarely lied, but it was Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the human ambassador to the Galactic Council, who surprised everyone with her calm reaction to the news. The small woman sat quietly at the human delegation's modest table, reviewing data on her portable computer while the other species discussed humanity's imminent defeat. Council Speaker Zephan, an ancient being from the Energy Collective, called for order in the Great Hall. His voice resonated through every translator in the chamber. "We have received official notification that the Xanthari Empire has declared war upon the human species. As is customary, we will observe this conflict and provide assistance to refugees if requested. Ambassador Tanaka, does humanity wish to make any statements before this council?" Dr. Tanaka stood slowly and walked to the center of the hall. Her simple gray diplomatic suit looked plain compared to the elaborate dress of the other ambassadors, but her voice was steady and clear. "Honored representatives, humanity regrets that this conflict has begun. We attempted peaceful resolution but were unsuccessful. We will defend ourselves as we always have." The hall erupted in what passed for laughter among the various alien species. The saurians made deep rumbling sounds, while the insectoid hive clusters clicked their mandibles rapidly. Even the normally serious energy collective flickered with patterns that indicated amusement. Representative Vexthani spoke for many when she addressed the human ambassador. "With respect, Dr. Tanaka, your species has never faced true interstellar warfare. The Xanthari have conquered dozens of worlds. Perhaps it would be wise to consider surrender before too many human lives are lost." Dr. Tanaka smiled politely. "We appreciate your concern, Representative Vexthani. However, humanity has faced difficult situations before. We will manage." Senator Grixmal leaned forward in his seat. "Dr. Tanaka, the Xanthari fleet has advanced. Plasma weapons, energy shields, and battle-tested commanders. What does humanity have that could possibly stand against such power? We have what we have always had, Senator. We will make do." The vague answer frustrated the alien representatives, but Dr. Tanaka simply returned to her seat and continued working on her computer. The other species interpreted her calm demeanor as either ignorance of the situation or shock at the hopelessness of humanity's position. Far from the council chambers, on Earth, a very different conversation was taking place in the underground command center of the United Earth Defense Force. Admiral Ben Parker stood before a large tactical display showing the positions of human colonies throughout known space. "How long do we have?" he asked his intelligence chief, Colonel Amy Rodriguez. "Based on Xanthari fleet movements, they'll reach our outer colonies in 6 days," Amy replied. "Their main force is massive, Admiral. 1,500 warships in the first wave alone." "Admiral." Parker nodded grimly. He was a thin man in his 60s, with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many conflicts. "What about our defensive positions?" "All colonies have implemented Protocol 7 as ordered. Phase 1 evacuation is nearly complete." Around the command table, other senior officers reviewed the reports coming in from human space. General Marcus Webb, head of ground forces, looked up from his datapad. "Admiral, I have to ask, are we really going to implement the full doctrine? Some of our people are questioning whether it's necessary against a species we've never fought before." Admiral Parker was quiet for a long moment. Then he activated a secure communication link to the outer colonies. "All station commanders, this is Earth Command. You are authorized to begin Phase 2 of Protocol 7. Repeat, Phase 2 is authorized." Colonel Rodriguez felt a chill as she heard the order. Phase 2 meant that humanity was preparing for total war, not just defense. She had helped write Protocol 7, but she had never expected to see it used. "Admiral," she said quietly, "once we begin Phase 2, there's no going back. The galaxy will never see us the same way again. Amy, they declared war on us. They made the choice." Admiral Parker's voice was hard. "We didn't start this fight, but we're going to finish it." Across human space, the Protocol 7 orders were received and implemented with quiet efficiency. On colony worlds, civilian populations began moving to predetermined safe zones. Mining stations powered down their operations and activated hidden systems that had been installed during construction. Captain Kelly Adams of the Earth Defense Ship Defiance received her orders while patrolling the border systems. She read them twice before calling her senior staff to the bridge. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have new orders. We are to proceed to Grid 7 and await further instructions. All non-essential personnel are to be transferred to the civilian evacuation ships." Her first officer, Commander Scott Miller, looked confused. "Captain, Grid 7 is empty space. There's nothing there but asteroids and cosmic dust." "Captain." Adams looked at her crew, men and women she had served with for years. "That's what it looks like, Scott, but appearances can be deceiving." Throughout the galaxy, intelligence networks operated by various species began tracking the unusual human movements. The Xanthari Military Command noted that human civilian ships were moving in seemingly random patterns, while their military vessels appeared to be retreating from forward positions. General Vrextel, the young Xanthari commander who had pushed for war, reviewed the reports with satisfaction. "The humans run like cowards before our might," he told his staff. "Their military retreats while their civilians flee in panic. This war will be over before it truly begins." But older, more experienced Xanthari officers were less certain. Admiral Kethver, who had been present at the first contact incident, studied the human movements with growing concern. "General, I have fought many species in my long career. I have never seen evacuation patterns like this. The humans are moving their people, but not away from danger. They are moving them to specific locations. What does it matter where cowards hide?" Vrextel replied dismissively. "Our fleet will find them wherever they run." Back on Nexus Prime, the Galactic Intelligence Services were reaching similar conclusions. The Ethereal Communion, an ancient species known for their wisdom, sent a private message to several major powers. "The human evacuation patterns are not random. They are deliberate and coordinated. This species may possess military doctrines we do not understand. But most species dismissed such warnings. The humans were new to space, young and inexperienced. What could they possibly know about warfare that the ancient galactic powers had not already mastered? Dr. Yuki Tanaka completed her report to Earth and smiled slightly as she sent it through the quantum communication network. The message was simple. They think we are running away. Phase 3 can begin on schedule. In the depths of space, human ships that had seemed to retreat were actually moving to predetermined positions. Mining equipment was being converted for purposes the galaxy had never imagined. And in the quiet corridors of human command centers, officers prepared to teach the galaxy a lesson about the species they had underestimated. The Zenthari Empire had declared war on humanity, expecting a quick victory against a weak opponent. They were about to discover that humans had been preparing for this war long before it began, and that sometimes the most dangerous enemies are those who seem the weakest. Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge of his flagship, the mighty Talon, as the Zenthari fleet approached the human colony at Kepler 442b. He had expected to find a world covered with defensive weapons and filled with desperate human soldiers preparing for a final battle. Instead, his sensors showed something that confused him greatly. The planet looked empty. "Scan the surface again," he ordered his sensor officer. "There must be hidden military installations." Sub-Commander Vrextel, the young officer who had pushed hardest for this war, moved to stand beside the admiral. His feathers were bright with excitement, and his sharp eyes gleamed with the promise of battle. "Admiral, perhaps the humans have already fled in terror. Our reputation alone may have won this war." Kethver was not so sure. In his long military career, he had learned to be suspicious when things seemed too easy. He had fought cowards before, and they usually left behind clear signs of panic. This felt different. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, "I am detecting some activity on the surface. Small groups of humans are still present, but they appear to be working." "Working?" Kethver moved to the sensor display. "Working on what?" The screen showed groups of humans moving around various installations across the planet. They were not building defenses or preparing weapons. They seemed to be doing routine maintenance on mining equipment and power generators. "These humans make no sense," Vrextel said with disgust. "They face the might of the Zenthari Empire, and they act as if nothing is happening." Kethver ordered his fleet to take positions around the planet. If the humans wanted to pretend this was a normal day, he would show them the reality of war. He opened a communication channel to the surface. "Human defenders, this is Admiral Kethver of the Zenthari Empire. Your world is now under our control. Surrender immediately, or face the consequences of your defiance." The response came from a human with a calm voice and a strange accent. "This is Captain Danny Liu of the Kepler Colony Engineering Corps. We are currently performing scheduled maintenance on our facilities. If you wish to land and discuss terms, please use landing pad 7. We have coffee ready." Vrextel's feathers fluffed with outrage. "They mock us. Admiral, give me permission to bombard their installations." But Kethver was more thoughtful. In all his years of warfare, no enemy had ever offered him coffee during a battle. Either these humans were completely insane, or they knew something he did not. "We will land troops first," he decided. "I want to understand what these humans are doing before we destroy them." The Zenthari troop transports descended toward the planet's surface. Kethver watched from orbit as his soldiers landed near the main human settlement. He expected to see the humans running or hiding. Instead, they continued their work as if armed alien warriors were not surrounding their positions. Captain Danny Liu met the Zenthari ground commander at the edge of the settlement. Liu was a middle-aged human with graying hair and work clothes covered in machine oil. He carried a steaming cup of coffee and seemed completely relaxed. "Welcome to Kepler 442b, Liu said cheerfully. "I am Captain Liu. Are you here about the mining rights dispute? We sent all the paperwork to the Galactic Council weeks ago." The Xanthari ground commander, a warrior named Grixon, was completely confused. This human was either very brave or very stupid. Grixon decided to test which one it was. "Human, you are now prisoners of the Xanthari Empire. Your world belongs to us." Liu nodded thoughtfully and took a sip of his coffee. "I see. Well, that does complicate things. We are right in the middle of our quarterly maintenance cycle. Would it be possible to finish that first? Should only take a few more hours." Grixon reported back to Admiral Kethver. "Sir, the humans are acting very strangely. They do not seem to understand that they have been conquered. Are they resisting?" Kethver asked. "No, sir. They are asking if they can finish their maintenance work before being captured." Kethver found this situation more puzzling by the minute. He decided to let the humans continue their work while he studied their behavior. Perhaps he could learn something useful about human psychology. Over the next several hours, Xanthari troops watched as Captain Liu and his team worked on various pieces of equipment around the colony. They adjusted power generators, checked communication arrays, and performed what looked like routine repairs on mining machinery. It was not until the humans announced they were finished that Kethver began to understand the trap. "Maintenance complete," Captain Liu announced over the radio. "All systems are now operating at full efficiency." The first sign of trouble came when the Xanthari fleet's sensors began acting strangely. Ships that had been maintaining perfect formation suddenly found their navigation systems confused. Energy readings fluctuated wildly, and communication between vessels became filled with static. "Admiral," the sensor officer called out urgently, "something is wrong with our electronics. We are getting interference from the planet's surface." Kethver looked at the tactical display and felt his blood run cold. The human maintenance work had turned every piece of equipment on the planet into a source of electromagnetic interference. The mining machinery was generating powerful energy fields. That disrupted Xanthari technology, but that was only the beginning. "Sir," another officer reported, "I am detecting new contacts on the outer sensor grid. Multiple ships approaching from various directions." The main tactical screen lit up with dozens of new signals. Human warships were emerging from hiding places throughout the star system. They had been concealed behind asteroids, inside nebula clouds, and in the shadows of moons. The Xanthari fleet suddenly found itself surrounded. "Impossible," Vrextel whispered. "Our scouts reported no human ships." In this system, Admiral Kethver realized the terrible truth. The humans had not fled. They had prepared. While the Xanthari had been focused on the empty colony, human forces had been moving into position all around them. Captain Kelly Adams of the Earth defense ship Defiance was the first to hail the Xanthari fleet. "Admiral Kethver, this is Captain Adams of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is now surrounded, and your ships are experiencing technical difficulties due to the electromagnetic field generated by our planetary installations. We suggest you consider surrender." On the planet's surface, Captain Liu looked up at the Xanthari soldiers who had been watching his work. Many of them were now struggling with equipment that had stopped working properly. "I probably should have mentioned," Liu said apologetically. "Our maintenance work included adjusting the power output of our generators. The electromagnetic field they create tends to interfere with most military electronics. We discovered this problem years ago and developed shielding for our own equipment." Grixon tried to activate his communication device to contact the fleet, but found it was completely dead. His weapon systems were also malfunctioning, and his armor's power supply was failing. "You tricked us," he said to Liu. "Not exactly," Liu replied. "We told you we were doing maintenance. We just did not explain what kind of maintenance." In our defense, you never asked. In orbit, Admiral Kethfer found his powerful fleet reduced to nearly helpless metal shells. The human electromagnetic field had disabled most of their weapons, disrupted their shields, and made coordinated movement impossible. Meanwhile, human ships surrounded them from all directions, their weapons trained on the Zenthari vessels. "Admiral," Vrexta said desperately, "we must fight our way out. The honor of the Empire demands it." But Kethfer was a practical warrior. He could see that his fleet was trapped and helpless. The humans had outmaneuvered them completely without firing a single shot in what the Zenthari would consider honorable combat. "They fought like true warriors," he said quietly. "They prepared the battlefield, chose the time and place of battle, and used every advantage available to them. We walked into their trap because we believed they were weak." "Captain Adams?" Voice came through the communication system again. "Admiral Kethfer, we are prepared to discuss terms for your surrender. We have no wish to destroy your ships or harm your crews. We simply want to end this conflict." For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Kethfer found himself completely outclassed by an enemy he had underestimated. The humans had turned an entire star system into a weapon, and had done it so cleverly that the Zenthari had helped them complete their preparations. "Sub-Commander Vrextal," he said heavily, "prepare a message to the Empire. Tell them we have learned something important about the humans. They do not fight the way we expected. They fight to win." As the proud Zenthari Empire faced its first major military defeat in centuries, word of the impossible victory began to spread through galactic communication networks. The humans had not just defeated a superior force. They had done it by thinking several steps ahead and turning their enemies' assumptions against them. The galaxy was about to learn its first lesson about the species they had dismissed as weak and inexperienced. The news traveled through galactic communication networks faster than any military report in recorded history. The impossible had happened. The Zenthari Empire, one of the galaxy's most feared military powers, had been defeated by humans without a single shot being fired in traditional combat. Dr. Alex Ching sat in her small office at the Galactic University on Nexus Prime, staring at the flood of interview requests filling her communication device. As one of the few human experts on alien psychology in the galaxy, she had suddenly become the most sought-after person in known space. Her first interview was with Representative Vexthani of the Coral Mines, who appeared on the communication screen in her water-filled chamber, her tentacles moving in patterns that showed deep confusion. "Dr. Chun, please help us understand what happened at Kepler 442b. Our military analysts cannot explain how your species defeated the Zenthari fleet." Alex leaned back in her chair and considered her words carefully. She knew that everything she said would be studied by every major power in the galaxy. "Representative Vexthani, humans approach warfare differently than most species. We do not believe in fair fights. We believe in winning fights." But the Zenthari had superior numbers, better weapons, and more advanced technology. "How can preparation overcome such advantages? We have a saying on Earth," Alex replied. "The battle is won before it is fought." Humans spend more time preparing for war than we spend fighting it. Vexthani's tentacles writhed with agitation. "Are you saying humans are always preparing for war?" "We prefer to call it preparing for peace through strength. We hope for the best, but we plan for the worst." On the Zenthari homeworld of Talek Prime, the defeat at Kepler 442b had caused massive political upheaval. Sub-Commander Vrextal stood before the High Council, his feathers dull with shame, demanding immediate escalation of the conflict. "Honored council members, we cannot allow this defeat to stand. The humans used trickery and deception instead of honorable combat. We must show them the true might of the Zenthari Empire." Elder Council Member Thexara, an ancient warrior whose scars told the story of 100 battles, listened with growing concern. Sub-Commander, explain to me how 1,500 of our finest warships were defeated without the enemy firing their main weapons. Vrextol's shame burned deeper, but his pride demanded an answer. The humans turned the entire star system into a trap. They used their own planet as a weapon. Such tactics are unconventional or brilliant. Asked another council member. Perhaps we have underestimated this species. But Vrextol's faction had already made their decision. Honored. Counselors, I request permission to deploy the Grand Fleet. 50,000 ships will crush any human trickery. Elder Vex Ara felt a chill of foreboding. Sub-Commander, are you certain this is wise? Admiral Kethver himself has recommended caution in dealing with the humans. Admiral Kethver was defeated by inferior numbers, Vrextol replied coldly. The Grand Fleet will not make the same mistakes. The vote was close, but the younger council members sided with Vrextol. The Zenthari Empire would commit its entire military might to the destruction of humanity. On Earth, Captain Sarah Williams of Earth Intelligence stood before a wall-sized display showing the movement of Zenthari forces throughout their territory. Her team had been monitoring enemy communications for weeks, building a complete picture of Zenthari military capabilities. They are committing everything, she reported to Admiral Parker. 50,000 ships from across their entire empire. It is the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Admiral Parker studied the data with calm eyes. Are we ready? Phase 4 is complete, sir. All colonies have been evacuated to safe positions. Our mobile forces are in position. The trap is set. And the psychological profile of their commanders? Sarah smiled grimly. Vrextol is young, angry, and believes in the superiority of direct force. He will do exactly what we expect him to do. In the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, emergency sessions were being held as the scope of the approaching conflict became clear. The Zenthari Grand Fleet was moving toward human space, while human colonies throughout the sector appeared to be disappearing. Senator Grixmal of the Saurian hegemony paced nervously in front of the main display. Where are the humans going? Our sensors show entire worlds being abandoned. Council Speaker Zephan flickered with patterns of uncertainty. Perhaps they are fleeing before the Zenthari advance. But the ancient beings of the ethereal communion were not so sure. Their representative Zaraketh spoke in whispers that carried across the chamber. We have observed human behavior for 2 centuries. They do not flee, they relocate. There is a difference. Dr. Yuki Tanaka sat quietly at the human delegation table, monitoring reports from Earth through her secure communication link. The messages were brief but clear. Humanity was implementing the most ambitious military operation in their history. Representative Vexthani approached the human ambassador during a recess in the council session. Dr. Tanaka, our intelligence networks show that human worlds are being evacuated across 3 star systems. Are your people abandoning their colonies? Dr. Tanaka looked up from her work with a slight smile. Representative Vexthani, humans do not abandon what is ours. We are simply reorganizing. What does that mean? It means the Zenthari Empire is about to receive a complete education in human military doctrine. As the Zenthari Grand Fleet moved through space toward human territory, their scouts reported the same thing from every system they approached. Human worlds appeared to be completely empty. Space stations drifted without power. Mining installations showed no signs of life. Sub-Commander Vrextol reviewed the reports with growing satisfaction. The humans flee before our approach like the cowards they are. We will occupy their empty worlds and claim victory. But Admiral Kethver, now serving as an advisor after his defeat, tried once more to warn his younger colleague. Vrextol, in my experience, when an enemy gives you exactly what you want, you should be very suspicious of their motives. You speak from the shame of defeat, Admiral. I will not repeat your mistakes. As the Grand Fleet spread across dozens of human star systems, Xanthari forces began landing on apparently abandoned human worlds. They found empty cities, powered-down factories, and orbital stations that seemed to have been hastily evacuated. But Captain Rick Torres of the Earth defense ship Retribution watched the Xanthari deployment from his hidden position in the shadow of a gas giant's moon. His ship was one of hundreds of human vessels concealed throughout the region, waiting for the signal to begin the largest military operation in human history. "All units, this is Retribution Command," he broadcast on the encrypted tactical network. "Enemy forces are now distributed across target zones. Operation Mousetrap is authorized. Repeat, Operation Mousetrap is authorized." Throughout human space, installations that had appeared abandoned suddenly came to life. Space stations that had seemed powerless revealed themselves as massive weapon platforms. Mining facilities that looked empty began launching clouds of sensor-disrupting particles. Entire planets that had appeared evacuated started broadcasting, jamming signals that interfered with Xanthari communications. The Xanthari Grand Fleet suddenly found itself not conquering empty territory, but trapped in the largest ambush in galactic military history. Commander Vrextil stared at his tactical display in disbelief as thousands of human ships emerged from hiding places throughout the sector. The abandoned worlds were revealing weapon systems that had been disguised as civilian infrastructure. The empty space stations were actually massive military platforms that had been powered down to avoid detection. "Impossible," he whispered. "How could they hide so many ships?" His tactical officer provided the answer with a shaking voice. "Sir, our intelligence reports show that humans have been building and positioning these forces for over 5 years. They have been preparing for this exact scenario since before the war began." Admiral Kefver's words echoed in Vrextil's mind. When an enemy gives you exactly what you want, be suspicious of their motives. The humans had not been fleeing. They had been drawing the entire Xanthari military into a carefully prepared killing ground. And now, 50,000 Xanthari ships found themselves scattered across dozens of star systems, cut off from each other and surrounded by enemies they had never detected. Captain Torres opened a communication channel to the Xanthari flagship. "Sub-Commander Vrextil, this is Captain Torres of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is now completely surrounded and cut off from reinforcement. We suggest you consider the wisdom of Admiral Kefver's earlier advice about working with humans instead of fighting them." As the scope of the human trap became clear, emergency meetings were called in every major capital throughout the galaxy. The humans had not just defeated another Xanthari fleet. They had outmaneuvered the largest military force in recorded galactic history. The galaxy was beginning to realize that humanity did not just fight wars. They engineered them. The Xanthari Grand Fleet hung scattered across human space like broken toys thrown by an angry child. Sub-Commander Vrextil stared at his tactical display, watching as his 50,000 ships found themselves cut off in small groups throughout dozens of star systems. "Status report," he demanded, though his voice had lost much of its earlier confidence. "Sir," his communications officer replied with barely controlled panic, "we have lost contact with 60% of our fleet. The human jamming systems are blocking all long-range communications. Each battle group is fighting alone." Vrextil felt the bitter taste of defeat in his mouth, but his pride would not let him surrender. "Order all units to fight their way to the rally point at Sector 7. We will regroup and show these humans the true power of Xanthari warriors." But Admiral Kefver, monitoring the battle from his position as an advisor, knew it was already too late. The humans had not just trapped the Xanthari fleet. They had broken it into small pieces that could be defeated one at a time. Captain Rick Torres stood on the bridge of the Retribution, coordinating the largest military operation in human history. Around him, dozens of officers managed the complex Battle taking place across multiple star systems simultaneously. "Captain," reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Janet Price. "Group 7 reports successful engagement with Xanthari Battle Squadron 15. Enemy forces are requesting surrender terms. Accepted. Have them transferred to the prisoner collection point at Station Echo." Torres turned to another officer. "What about Group 12? They report the Xanthari forces in their sector have agreed to ceasefire pending negotiations." Torres nodded with satisfaction. The human strategy was working exactly as planned. Instead of destroying the Xanthari fleet, they were giving each trapped group the option to surrender with honor intact. It was more psychologically devastating than simple destruction across the galaxy. The major powers watched the systematic dismantling of the Xanthari Empire with growing alarm. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency sessions ran day and night as representatives tried to understand what they were witnessing. Dr. Alex Chen found herself giving another interview, this time to a panel of military experts from 6 different species. The questions came rapidly, each one revealing how little the galaxy understood about human military thinking. "Dr. Chen," asked General Morse Tack of the insectoid hive clusters, "how did your species hide so many ships for so long?" "Our intelligence networks detected no major human military buildup." Alex smiled slightly. "General, you were looking for military shipyards and weapons factories. You found civilian construction sites and mining operations. The difference is important to humans, but apparently not to other species. Are you saying human civilian facilities can be converted to military use?" asked Representative Vexthani, her tentacles moving with agitation. "We are saying that humans do not make the same distinctions between civilian and military infrastructure that other species do. A human mining ship can become a warship. A construction facility can become a weapons factory. A transport vessel can become a troop carrier." The implications of this revelation sent shockwaves through the galactic intelligence community. If human civilians could become soldiers and human civilian equipment could become weapons, then estimating human military capacity was impossible using traditional methods. On the Xanthari homeworld, Elder Council member Thex Ara called for an emergency session of the High Council. The reports coming from the battle zone painted a picture of complete military disaster. "Honored counselors," she announced to the assembled leaders, "we have lost contact with 80% of the Grand Fleet. The remaining forces are scattered and surrounded. Sub-Commander Vrex Tull is requesting permission to fight to the death rather than surrender." The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Some demanded that the fleet fight on regardless of cost. Others called for immediate peace negotiations. But Elder Thex Ara raised her hand for silence. "Before we make any decisions, we must understand what we are truly fighting. The humans have not just defeated our military. They have demonstrated capabilities that we never knew existed." She activated a holographic display showing the current tactical situation. "Look at this battle map. The humans have engaged our forces across 15 star systems simultaneously. They are coordinating attacks, providing support, and managing prisoner transfers across distances that should make such coordination impossible." Young Counselor Greshvan, one of Rexdale's supporters, spoke angrily. "Elder Thex Ara, are you suggesting we surrender to these inferior beings?" "I am suggesting that we may have been wrong about which species is inferior." In human space, the final phase of Operation Mousetrap was beginning. Captain Sarah Williams coordinated the intelligence operation that would end the war not through destruction, but through demonstration. "All units, this is command. Begin Phase 7. Show them what we could have done." Throughout the battle zone, human forces began revealing capabilities they had kept hidden during the fighting. Weapons systems that had remained dormant suddenly came online, showing power levels that dwarfed anything the Xanthari had imagined. Defensive platforms that had appeared to be simple space stations revealed themselves as massive fortresses, capable of destroying entire fleets. But most shocking of all were the ships that emerged from deep space. The human reinforcement fleet that arrived consisted not of hundreds of vessels, but thousands. Ships that had been built in secret, hidden in the depths of human space, and held in reserve for exactly this moment. Sub-Commander Vrextel watched in horror as the true scope of human military power became clear. The forces that had already defeated his grand fleet were just a fraction of what humanity could deploy. The humans had been fighting with one hand behind their back. "Open a channel to the human command ship," he ordered quietly. Captain Torres accepted the communication with calm professionalism. "Sub-Commander Vrextel, I am Captain Torres. Are you ready to discuss terms?" "Captain Torres," Vrextel said, his voice heavy with defeat and dawning understanding. "How long have you been preparing for this war?" "Sub-Commander, we have been preparing for war since the day we first looked up at the stars and realized we were not alone. The specific preparations for conflict with the Xanthari Empire began approximately 7 years ago." "7 years? But we only made contact with your species 2 years ago. We began preparing when our intelligence services identified the Xanthari Empire as a potential threat to human expansion. We studied your culture, your military tactics, and your psychology. This entire conflict has proceeded exactly as our strategists predicted." The truth hit Vrextel like a physical blow. The humans had not stumbled into this war. They had prepared for it, planned for it, and executed their strategy with precision that spanned years of preparation. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "We want peace, Sub-Commander. We have never wanted anything else. But we wanted peace with security, and that required demonstrating our defensive capabilities." The formal surrender of the Xanthari Grand Fleet took place 3 days later. Admiral Kethver, freed from captivity to serve as a negotiator, met with human representatives on the neutral station of Haven Point. Dr. Yuki Tanaka led the human delegation, her calm demeanor unchanged from her appearances before the Galactic Council. "Admiral Kethver, humanity offers the following terms. All Xanthari military personnel will be repatriated to your homeworld unharmed. All Xanthari ships will be returned after repairs. The Xanthari Empire will recognize human territorial claims and establish formal diplomatic relations." Kethver was puzzled. "Dr. Tanaka, these terms are far more generous than any species would offer after such a decisive victory. What does humanity want in return?" "We want what we have always wanted, Admiral. We want to be left alone to live in peace." This demonstration was necessary to ensure that peace. "And if other species threaten humanity in the future?" Dr. Tanaka's smile was cold and confident. "Admiral, I believe this conflict has sent a clear message to the galaxy about the consequences of threatening human interests." News of the Xanthari surrender spread through galactic communication networks within hours. But more important than the military victory was the message it sent to every species in known space. In the months that followed, the term human style warfare entered the common vocabulary of every galactic military. Universities began offering courses in human military doctrine. Intelligence services rewrote their threat assessment protocols. The coral mines declared human space to be permanently off-limits to their expansion plans. The Saurian hegemony offered humanity a mutual defense treaty. The insectoid hive clusters requested permission to study human strategic thinking. Dr. Alex Chun found herself appointed as the first director of human military studies at the Galactic University. Her first lecture drew representatives from every major species in the galaxy. "The most important lesson," she told her audience, "is that humans do not fight wars to prove our strength. We fight wars to end them permanently. We prepare not for the battle we expect, but for the war we hope never." Comey's. In the deepest archives of every major galactic power, New files were created with simple classifications. Species human.